First ball. 98.
Straight out of Austin, Texas, this is On Second Thought, powered by Hookem.com. Giving you the latest on Texas Longhorn sports and everything in between. Here's your host, award-winning Statesman sports columnist, Cedric Golden.
It's episode 345 of On Second Thought, and it's Cowbell Week in Austin. The Texas Longhorns ranked number 2 in the U.S. LBM coaches poll, but number 1 in the AP, and I'm assuming your hearts host the Mississippi State Bulldogs on Saturday at DKR 3:15 local kickoff on the SEC Network. Now, we'll visit with Clarion-Ledger beat writer Sam Sklar a little later, but first, let's talk about the biggest story on the 40 acres, and that's the quarterback position. As you know, Quinn Ewers missed the ULM beatdown after he sustained an oblique injury against UTSA in week 3. Redshirt freshman Arch Manning came on and electrified the stadium with 5 touchdowns, and then he gets his first start this past week against ULM, and he goes for 258 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. It was an uneven performance. Even Arch said it was a C+ in his viewpoint, but the kid did more than enough to take care of business, to get the Horns to 4-0. They sit atop the rankings, at or near the top of the rankings. So what of Saturday? I know the injury report came out Wednesday, and Quinn Ewers was listed as questionable. Arch is healthy as a hoss and ready to go. I know the Heisman Trophy's a goal, but look, guys, Quinn himself said that team success is the top goal and that the individual accolades would come with that success. He does not need to play against Mississippi State on Saturday to end up in New York City in a tux. Why risk Quinn Ewers at 80% when you can get him in another 2 weeks with the bye week and have him all fresh and frisky for Oklahoma on October 12th and the Georgia Bulldogs on October the 19th? We do not have a quarterback controversy here. This is Quinn Ewers' team. He's proven it over these last 2 seasons when he went into Tuscaloosa last season and kicked Alabama's butt, won a Big 12 title, and then this season he smoked Michigan in the Big House. Remember last year when he got hurt against Houston and Malik Murphy stepped in capably and kept the train on the tracks with a couple of wins that kept the Horns in the CFP mix? It's kind of the same scenario here, except that we know that Texas will roll the worst team in SEC by at least 40. We don't want to see history repeat itself back to 2009 when Mack Brown was in the midst of a title game run, but didn't play backup quarterback Garrett Gilbert enough in the blowouts. They won 8 games by at least 30 points, but Garrett Gilbert only threw the ball 26 times in the regular season. Then when Colt McCoy went down early in the first quarter against Alabama in the title game, Garrett wasn't ready. We already know that Arch will be ready regardless of the competition because the moment just doesn't seem too big for him. He's been here before. He's an old soul who's from the first family of SEC quarterbacks. Check out the conversation I had with Steve Sarkisian about Arch's performance over the last weekend.
Hey, Steve, Arch said the game felt long to him, even though he didn't play a full game. This was your first conversation with him as a starter after a game. What were those like, and how do you think he held up?
Well, I thought, one thing that he did really well Saturday, and I know I talked about it Saturday night, but a year ago, after that pick, that might have taken a minute for him to rebound from. And I thought he responded really well mentally. I thought his poise and composure was really good Saturday. Even after the pick at the end of the first half, to come back in the second half and play the way he did in the third quarter, I thought was impressive for me, just from a maturity standpoint of how far that he's grown. Arch believes in his ability, and so he's going to try to take some of these shots, and we reap the benefits of it. Like I said, I just rattle off 4 plays of guys making down the field. As he continues to grow, he's going to learn the value of some of those explosive plays on the perimeter on checkdowns. And, he got one to Ryan Niblett and some different things, but I think there's going to be some other throws for him out there. But I've just been impressed for a guy early on in his career, the way he rebounded. And I've seen a lot of young quarterbacks have a rough start, and then that rough start turns into a rough game. And it was a little bit of a rough start for him, but I thought he rebounded and did some nice things for us.
What you're hearing from there is he wants Arch to remember to make plays, and it doesn't always have to be about the analytics. He doesn't want these guys to be robots. He said it before. He wants them to have fun with the position. Sark played the position, so he understands that sometimes some improvisation is all good. Remember, Quinn made a no-look pass early in the season. People like that kind of stuff. Teammates gravitate to it. So I'm hoping that Arch gets another start so he can continue to gain some very needed experience in case Quinn gets hurt again. So far be it for me to put on a coach's hat, though I wouldn't mind cashing a coach's check. But they don't need Quinn this weekend, and I'm positive that he can play if needed. But it's Mississippi State. It's Mississippi State. If this was OU or Georgia, and he was still banged up, oh yeah, we could rub some Robitussin on that oblique and get him out there. This isn't Oklahoma. This isn't Georgia. This is a very small battle that the Horns are going to win big. They're trying to win ultimately the big one. And the best way is to have number 3 healthy for the games that will test them. Give Arch one more start. Quinn gets 2 weeks to get ready for the Sooners. And if this is about the Heisman, it can wait. Shoot, Ricky Williams lost 48-7 to K-State and still won the Heisman Trophy. That trophy is about creating moments. And most of the time, those moments come later in the season. So Quinn will have ample opportunity to create some nice highlight reel moments over the last 7 games, then hopefully the SEC title game and a nice run in the CFP. For now, let's let Arch cook. We'll see you in Dallas, Quinn.
On second thought.
Join me in welcoming Sam Sklar from the Clarion-Ledger. He is the esteemed beat writer for Mississippi State football. The Bulldogs enter Saturday's game against the Horns with a 1-3 record after 3 straight losses. 3:15 kickoff at DKR. Sam, how are you?
Great, excited. Excited to be here. Thank you for having me. And it should be an interesting atmosphere and environment this weekend in Austin. Texas's first SEC game as since joining the conference. So they get Mississippi State in that first jab at it. So probably a little bit of a runway for them to get started in that regard. But should still be fun. Should still be a good time.
Man, the Cowbells are coming to the 5-1-2. I'm going to tell you, I know that Mississippi State's on a rough stretch right now. They've got blown out by Toledo in non-conference, and then they're coming off a 45-28 loss to Florida, in which starting quarterback Blake Shapen, I know that's a familiar name to Texas fans. He played at Baylor, won a Big 12 championship with Baylor, lost for the season with a shoulder injury. What's Coach Jeff Lebby in his first season doing to keep this locker room believing in the process?
Yeah, that's kind of the big question now. Instead of wins and losses at this moment, it's how do you keep this thing together? And it was kind of interesting last week. They lost to Toledo in just that brutal game. But then in the couple days after, they got 2 high school commitments who are now both their top commitment in the 2025 class and their top commitment in the 2026 class. And then on last Thursday, they also got an $8 million donation to directly to the football program. And so it kind of turned in from a horrible week into almost a good week for the program. And so I think that there's a lot of belief still that Jeff Lebby is the right guy. I don't think that's changed at all. I think you've seen just a lot of, repercussions of what's just gone on with this program for the last 6 years, where Jeff Lebby is their fourth coach in the last 6 years.
That's a lot.
They're still kind of recovering from when Mike Leach died 2 years ago and feeling the repercussions of that. So I think this season is kind of all that coming together right now. And they just don't have the talent to, compete in the SEC this season. I think though that people still are believing right now that Lebby is still the guy.
And it's tough for a new coach to come in and replace a legend. Mike Leach, man, in these parts is a legend. I mean, Texas Tech would always beat somebody. They kept Texas out of a national championship game in 2008, beat them in the last second. So, we love Mike Leach. He was a friend of the podcast. And so with Blake being out for the season, all eyes in Stark Vegas turned to Michael Van Buren, a freshman who completed 7 of 13 passes for 100 yards in relief. What can you tell us about young Van Buren and what's his upside?
Yeah, so we weren't really sure who exactly was the backup quarterback, before last week. They kind of came into the season, in a position battle to be the second stringer between Michael Van Buren and Chris Parson. And, on the depth chart, they were both listed as the second string guy. And so Michael Van Buren, the true freshman, actually was the one who came in relief last Saturday against Florida in the fourth quarter. And so that kind of tipped us off, okay, this is going to be the guy who's going to end up starting this week. And then Lebby confirmed it on Monday. And so, true freshman 4-star who, has really just kind of shot up the depth chart since he got here. We got to see obviously a little bit of him in action against Florida in the fourth quarter. I mean, the game was already decided at that point. And, I went back and watched pretty much all of his throws. And I think that Florida was kind of playing a little bit of a cushion defense.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I mean, he's a true freshman who on his first drive of the game led them 75 yards down the field and scored a touchdown. And then his other possession that he got, they went 74 yards down the field. He scrambles, gets tackled at the 1 yard line, but the time runs out. So they weren't able to run another play, but they had a first and goal at the 1. They were probably going to score again. And so I think that was very encouraging to see. He's got some mobility and escapability from the pocket. The big question is just going to be, as a true freshman making your first career start, how are you going to do facing the number 1, number 2 team in the country right now in front of 100,000 fans? It's probably a lot to ask of a true freshman, but there's still 8 games left in the season and Blake Shapen's not coming back. So there's going to be probably a lot of ugly moments, but maybe also some inspiring moments. So going to be a lot of growth too.
Yeah, and you look at Coach Lebby. He's walked these Big 12 streets when he was the assistant coach at OU, assistant coach at Baylor, both on the offensive side of the ball. He's been very, very complimentary of what Mississippi State is facing this weekend. What has he said to you guys and his players as far as the atmosphere that they can expect in a packed DKR come Saturday?
Yeah, I don't think he's really spoken specifically on what the environment's going to be, but more just the opportunity of playing, the number 1 team in the country right now, in their first SEC game, and just, what that could mean for this program. I think it's pretty hard to say, right now the debate, we were thinking maybe if Mississippi State could make a bowl game in Lebby's first season, that would be a success. If you're able to win 6 games, because they've got a pretty brutal schedule. I mean, they're playing at Texas, and then they're at Georgia, at Tennessee, and at Ole Miss, and get Mizzou at home. So they play 5 of the top 11 teams and 4 of the top 6 teams in the country.
That's easily the toughest schedule in America. No question.
It's so brutal. So you kind of, tempered expectations coming into the season. And so, I mean, now the question is whether or not they'll win another game, period.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you get blown out at home by Toledo and Florida, it's difficult right now to say that they're able to win another game. They play UMass at home in November, so that's probably their best shot, but we'll see.
Give me a couple of players that we can watch that besides Van Buren that have gotten your attention in this your first year on the beat.
Yeah, so offensively, the wide receiver group is definitely a strength of the team. Kevin Coleman is the leading receiver right now, who started his career at Jackson State and was the SWAC Freshman of the Year. Went up to Louisville for last season and now transferred to Mississippi State. And he's a pretty explosive player who also is a really nice punt returner. Just the problem is the defense has been so bad the last couple of weeks that he doesn't get many punt return options. But so he's doing that. And otherwise, they got some youngsters and, four-star guys like Mario Craver and Stonka Burnside that have stood out at wide receiver. They just lost from a running back standpoint, they've been using a three-back kind of committee, but one of them just went down with an injury and isn't going to play this week. So it's going to be up to Johnny Daniels and Davon Booth, a transfer from Utah State. Defensively, it's tough to say because it's just been really, really brutal. Mississippi State can't stop the run. They're one of the worst run defenses in the country. And they only have 3 sacks on the season, and they've gone 2 straight games without a single sack.
Mm-hmm.
So, Isaac Smith is a safety who led the country in tackles entering last week. But he got injured in the third quarter last week, and we don't really know what his status is going to be. He took a kind of brutal blindside block, and it looked really bad in the moment, but he was able to walk it off. So I think they're hopeful that he's going to be able to play, but as of right now, we're uncertain. But he's probably been the brightest spot defensively.
Well, you got you're new to this. You're from up north. How have you adapted personally to this heat, to this area of the country, and how excited are you to be covering some SEC football, albeit for probably the worst team in the conference?
Yeah, so I was covering Southern Miss for the last year. So I was in Hattiesburg, which is about 3 hours south of Starkville, and so I got a year of the southern heat kind of under me, but I do think that Starkville is just a little bit cooler temperature-wise than Hattiesburg, because Hattiesburg is not too far from the Gulf of Mexico, so you get a ton of humidity, and it's kind of just like sticky and hot every single day. But in my few weeks that I've been up here now, there's definitely a little bit more variance in the weather, so that part's been nice. But I'm really excited to be here too. Being a part of the SEC. It's a really cool opportunity for me. I'm excited to do some traveling now and seeing some of the other SEC cities and colleges and everything like that. So I'm just looking forward to it.
You're obviously a young man. I'm going to take a wild guess and say I think you're going to have a good time in Austin this weekend.
Yeah.
You're hanging out with our Longhorn insider, David Eckert. He's taking you to Black's Barbecue. Load up on the brisket. The turkey's pretty good, but I don't go for the turkey. I always go for the red meat. Sam, it's a pleasure, man. I look forward to seeing you in the press box, and thanks for giving us a few minutes today on Second Thought.
Thanks for having me, man. See you Saturday.
All right, brother.
On Second Thought.
What a great conversation with Clarion-Ledger beat writer Sam Sklar, giving us a primer on the Mississippi State Bulldogs. I had to hit on a little topic that's making huge news out west. UNLV starting quarterback Matthew Sluka just stepped away from the program and announced that he will redshirt because of what he said were verbal promises made to him by the school that went unfulfilled. According to a story on ESPN.com, his agent Marcus Cromartie said UNLV assistant coach Brendan Marion promised Sluka $100,000 to transfer from Holy Cross, only to hear that Coach Barry Odin, the head coach, announced that the offer was not valid. The school is saying that he would make $12,000 over these next 4 months. That's the football season. Man, he can make that at McDonald's. You tell me a quarterback that's in Division I FBS making $12,000, and I'll tell you a guy who should join Matthew Sluka in the transfer portal. He did make a whopping $3K at UNLV, and that was for a summer engagement. But he said the school promised it would pay out the $100,000 through a payment plan throughout the season, which I took to mean about 25 grand a month. That's not bad money. None of that showed up. And he believes he was left holding a bag that was about $88,000 light. He's far and away the only quarterback for a ranked team that's not pulling in any money. Secondly, I just think this is a failing of the NCAA. This lack of uniformity in the NIL arena cannot continue. More stories like this are going to happen. It's a horrible look for college football. First of all, Sluka family, what are you doing dealing with money matters with an assistant? He's a recruiter, sure, but when it came time to put pen to paper and to figure out who was going to be dropping those stanky Ben Frankies into your bank account, you had to go higher up the food chain. You should have been in Barry Odom's office making sure that, hey, this is the agreement. Now, are we good with the $100,000 for this season? And if Barry signs off and you put pen to paper, it's all good. I know they don't want to call it pay for play, but that's what it is. That's what it is. I guarantee you that Quinn Ewers knew what he was getting before he transferred him from Ohio State to Texas. At the end of the day, what's $100 grand anyway? You're UNLV. UNLV is 3-0. They have a chance to have a special season for the first time since Randall Cunningham was the quarterback when they went 11-2. They could have scored the Mountain West if they make the CFP upwards of $2 million, and they would have gotten a nice little piece of that $2 million. Remember the offseason when Nebraska head coach Matt Rule, formerly of Baylor, said that a good quarterback in the FBS nowadays is going for $1 to $2 million? Apparently that word didn't get back to UNLV. Now, I'm not saying that a dude from Holy Cross should be demanding $1 to $2 million, but I think he's probably bigger than 12 grand. It really sucks for his teammates too, because that locker room has to be excited. They've beaten Kansas, they've beaten Houston. I know those aren't great programs, but those are Big 12 teams that they knocked off, and they're courting maybe with joining the Pac-12 conference. So before last season's 9-5 finish, the Rebels had 9 straight losing seasons. So they were on a roll before all of this came up. Here's my thing. You're UNLV. You're playing in Vegas. Surely you can find some greenbacks in that city to take care of the most important player on the football team. Man, Randall Cunningham is turning over in his grave, and he's not even dead yet. This is a really bad look, not only for UNLV, but for the NCAA at large.
On second thought.
Here we go! Buck, here we go! Here we go!
With all due respect to Dak Prescott, it's more like here we go again. And the Dallas Cowboys feel like a broken vessel. And I know it's just 3 games into the season, but man, after those 2 games against the Saints and then against the Ravens, it just feels like Mike McCarthy doesn't have any real tangible answers to what's going on both sides of the ball. Tonight they're at MetLife Stadium against the resurgent, I guess we can call them resurgent, New York Giants. Dallas is traveling on the road in a short week for the first time ever. While all the other teams have done it a minimum of 6 times each, it must be nice. And maybe it's because the Cowboys play on Thanksgiving. I don't know. But that Thanksgiving game's at home. So I'm not sure how Dallas has survived the short week bus for all of this long. The bad news is the Saints punked them with David Carr and Alvin Kamara, and then the Ravens came in with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, who the Cowboys deemed too inexpensive of a running back, and they left tread marks over this defense. 1-2 after 3 games, so it is early, but are they in real trouble this time? I'm not sure. I'm not ready to say that just yet, but you have wide receiver CeeDee Lamb in Dak's face again. Remember the Green Bay playoff game where they were only going at it on the sideline, and then there's Mike McCarthy over there looking clueless, looking like he has zero answers for the second week in a row. I think it falls on Jerry Jones, the owner GM. He sat idly by in the offseason while named free agent running backs like Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley and Aaron Jones and Joe Mixon and Josh Jacobs signed elsewhere. They also let Tony Pollard walk. And so what they do is they bring in an over-the-hill Ezekiel Elliott, an undersized Deuce Vaughn, and Rico Dowdle, who's just a guy. It's easily the least impressive running back by committee in the league. They're the third worst rushing offense in the NFL. And let's look on the other side of the ball. They're well past. They are the worst rushing defense in the league. Now, instead of chomping at the bit tonight against Daniel Jones and company, they are a 4.5-point favorite on the road. I just don't know if this team is confident enough to turn it around just yet. If ever there was a time to do it, it's tonight. I wouldn't touch that point spread with a 39.5 poll, but I know there's some people out there that think Dallas will bounce back. If you take a look at the NFC East, all of a sudden it's no longer a given who will win it. I had Philly by far and away winning this division in the preseason. They got lucky at the end of the Saints game, else they would be tied with Dallas for last place in the division. So note to the Cowboys, don't go into this game thinking the star on the side of your helmet will be enough. Don't play a base defense. Rookie wideout Malik Neighbors is a real dude. He has 30 targets over the last 2 games. He's the early choice for Rookie of the Year. Don't make Danny Dimes in the Eli Manning. Make him prove to you that he can do it with his lesser receivers. Make Slayton or Jalen Hyatt beat you. This isn't on Dak. He's put up numbers, albeit because he's been behind for pretty much the last 2 weeks. So it would be nice to see them get a lead and play from ahead and maybe make Daniel Jones remember that he's Daniel Jones. Surely they get it done tonight. The Giants have a good defensive front and a star in the making in young Neighbors. But Dallas is still the more talented team. I think that Micah Parsons needs to play up to his ability level and stop chirping on the bench and go out and make a play and show his teammates that it's about action and not talk. And so if I'm picking the game tonight, I go with Dallas. You always pick whoever has the best quarterback. That's the team you usually pick in this game. As for the head coach, this could be the end of the McCarthy era. I mean, they've won 12 games 3 years in a row, but do they look like a 12-win team right now? The answer is a resounding no. People are talking about Bill Belichick coming in to replace McCarthy. Bell's is 72 years old, and he's got 6 Super Bowls in the trophy case, and at his age, does he really have the patience to deal with the Jerry Jones circus? I would say, Bill, that TV gig may not be up to your cup of tea, but it's a low-stress job. I know you're sleeping pretty well these days. That coaching bug never goes away, but I think I'd stay far, far away. Good luck to the Cowboys tonight. I think they win, but I think they're in for a very long season. And that's going to do it for this edition of On Second Thought. Big thanks go out to Sam Sklar of the Clarion-Ledger. Thanks to Chandler Hoffley for putting this thing together. We appreciate you guys listening to us wherever you get your podcast. We appreciate the YouTube views. Things are starting to really grow with the podcast. We appreciate it. We're going to be here each week. Check out our Longhorn stuff on statesman.com and hookem.com. Danny Davis, Caleb Young, David Eckert, Thomas Jones are doing a phenomenal job. And our new Texas A&M writer, Tony Catalina, is doing great stuff in College Station as well. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to On Second Thought, powered by hookem.com. Join Ced every Thursday for a brand new episode. Archived episodes can be found on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and Google Android Play.